So, who ruined your Christmas morning and turned it into an absolute nightmare? I drove 12 hours to my dad's house, staying 5 days because he guilts me for never staying more than 2 nights. I'm divorced, with grown kids who were coming later, so it was just the two of us for the first 3 days. On my first day, he tells me at noon he's leaving at 1:30 to see his lady friend. He invites me to dinner at her house but says he'll be spending the night there. I decline and plan a solo day in my hometown. Annoying, but fine. I spend the day running errands, come back early, order my favorite local takeout, wrap presents, and fall asleep on the couch. Then, at 5:30 a.m., he checks his home thermostat app, sees the temp at 71 when he set it to 68, and assumes I've fallen asleep upstairs with the gas logs on and the house is about to burn down. So, what does he do? He comes home, jerks me out of sleep on the couch, and absolutely loses it. I'm talking veins bulging, spittle flying, screaming over a 3-degree difference. Then he spends 5 hours grilling me about my career, personal life, and mental health. Yeah, probably the last Christmas I ever come home. Story 2. My son Kevin. He was a total brat, so we made him sleep on the 3rd floor. Then the little rascal forgot to wake up and missed his plane to Paris. Now I've been from Paris to Dallas to, where the hell am I now? Oh yeah, Scranton. I'm tired and dirty. Now some polka group is suggesting they can help, so I'm off. Story 3. I drove 4 hours to spend the day with my dad at his request 3 weeks ago. And then, immediately after lunch, not even dinner, he said he and his new girlfriend of 4 weeks were going to a friend's dinner. My drive was longer than the time he spent with me at his house. So now I'm watching Christmas movies and drinking with my grandma instead. After trying to fix our rocky relationship, which has been strained since I was a teenager, it's great to realize he truly doesn't care. Story 4. My ex told me she was going to spend the night at her mom's house on Christmas Eve because she missed her. I said, of course, go spend time with your mom. We still meet up in the morning. Then, Christmas morning, her mom called me asking to speak with her because she couldn't get a hold of her. I said she should be at her mom's sips, right? Her mom said, nope, I haven't seen her all night. That's how I found out she was cheating on me. Edit. Thanks everyone for your kind words. I'm doing fine and will be okay through it all. I'll be living with family for a bit. And for anyone curious, we were together for 5 years. Story 5. My brother, simply by existing, caused chaos. My family flew into Paris from one country, he flew in from another, and he had a complete mental breakdown because no one met him at the airport to escort him to our Airbnb and instead ordered him an Uber. He proceeded to scream at and abuse my parents, claiming they had abandoned him and left him to fend for himself in the wild unknown that is CDG Airport. He then threatened to leave immediately and refused to leave his room, not even to eat, as a form of protest against my parents' supposed mistreatment. He is 35 years old, and my parents bought his tickets. The entire trip is on their dime. Story 6. My mother. She screamed at my dad like a banshee at about 6 a.m. All he did was put water in the coffee maker. When you put water in, it immediately starts brewing. I guess that was too early in the morning? I'm still not exactly sure what her problem was. For context, for the first time in several years, our entire immediate family was under one roof for an extended period, staying at my grandmother's house for the holidays. My mother has always been prone to fits of rage. Growing up, she exploded often. I haven't been around it in 9 years, neither have my brothers, but yesterday morning was an ugly reminder of her behavior. My dad doesn't believe in divorce. He works nights to avoid her. They pass like ships in the night, have separate bedrooms, and live separate lives. We came together because my dad's uncle just passed away, and we typically don't celebrate Christmas together. I overpaid to fly home today and even opted out of Christmas dinner to do so. I left 2 days before everyone else. I just can't do it. It's as if she's possessed by a demon. Story 7. The whole family. This morning, there was literally one gift for me under the tree, the gift cards I took my mom to buy 2 days ago. So basically, a gift I bought for myself. Everyone else had gifts from every other family member. My brother and his wife, their siblings, each other. I had one gift, and it's the one I bought for myself. Supposedly, everyone else's gifts to me are still in the mail, but it's pretty awful to fly halfway around the world to spend the holiday watching everyone else open presents. Story 8. My mother-in-law ruined Christmas. She got a new job and decided to stay here. She's someone I can only describe as a narcissistic pick-me woman, 45 years old, who morphs her personality to fit whoever is in the room. Whenever I talk to my wife, she always has something to say or some unneeded input. 2 weeks ago, I asked her to stop butting into our conversations because I didn't need the peanut gallery. Fast forward to Christmas Eve, around 1 a.m. We were cleaning up, just me and my wife. I was vacuuming some baby puffs my son had spilled. I got most of them when my wife said the vacuum's waste receptacle needed dumping. My ML immediately repeated what my wife said. I looked for the release on the receptacle. My wife said it's on the bottom, and my MEL echoed her again. I snapped and told her I did not need her input. 10 seconds later, my wife said the one my hand was on is the button. Again, MEL echoed her. I told her the same thing I said 2 weeks ago. I do not need a peanut gallery. She got offended and mouthy. I asked her to leave, and she threw a Christmas bag at me, then her glasses. Again, I told her to leave, and she said she wouldn't go without seeing her grandson. I refused because she had been violent, lunging at me twice, and I had to push her away. She then claimed that since she had been here off and on for 3 weeks, she had squatter's rights. I told her I sublease from my mom, there's a no sublease policy, and if she tried to claim this, she would never see her grandchild again. I had to call the cops to have her removed because she refused to leave. She even attempted to lie to the police, saying my wife had said she could see our son. The cops made her leave. Story 9. My father-in-law texted my husband this morning to ask if I was pregnant again because the entire family decided I looked a little round at Christmas Eve dinner. Story 10. My parents and I have had a strained relationship since I was a kid. I live out of state and can't make it every year. This is the first time since the pandemic that I was able to come down. Dinner was at their house this year, and they made a shrimp boil. I've been allergic to shellfish since I was 14. This is the second year in a row they've made it. I didn't say anything or make a scene. It's not worth it at this point. I ate what I could quietly. I'm certain they noticed, but true to form, they didn't say anything. Story 11. I think this year it was me who ruined Christmas. My relationship with my family has always been strained. They don't really try to keep in contact, and I do then get hurt when it's not reciprocated, quit for a bit, feel bad, try again, and repeat. I went to my parents' place yesterday knowing in advance that my little brother and I might leave today or stay until tomorrow. My family is, for lack of a better word, incredibly boring. They don't do anything. We have our 45-minute chat, then sit around in stark, awkward silence for the rest of the day, each of us clearly not wanting to be there. I try to get them to do something, but they won't. I brought board games, but they're not interested in learning because they think it's complicated. When I've convinced them to play, they treat it like a chore and often walk away before finishing. There's no fun, only frustration. I suggested we watch a movie or TV, but they said there's never anything on. I brought my laptop and HDMI so we could stream something, but they weren't interested. Realistically, anytime we try to watch anything, they get bored and walk away. They're the type to flip channels until they fall asleep. Music? Nah. They didn't feel like it, they don't drink, they don't have other hobbies, they don't have friends, they're not into sports, they just don't do anything. So, my parents asked whether we were thinking of leaving today or tomorrow, and I told them today. I mentioned that 3 days there felt hard because we just don't know what to do with ourselves when we're all sitting around in silence. This really hurt my dad. He said he understood, but I could tell he was upset and kept apologizing for how boring they were. While we were packing up, he came back with $100 and insisted I take it to help pay for my rental car. I think he felt guilty asking us to come because he thought we didn't want to be there, like he owed me something. I know he's also dealing with his own dad's end of life, and I've tried to be supportive, but he hasn't allowed me to visit or spend time with him, so I just don't know how to connect. I left feeling like an absolute bag of crap because I just don't know what to do. The vibe at their house is never happy. I try to offer activities, but they're never interested. They just want to sit in silence or disappear to separate corners of the house. In retrospect, I probably should have brought a book or something and just hung out quietly. If I'm going to sit in a corner and read while my parents do their own thing, I'd rather do it in the comfort of my own home. I feel like an absolute asshole. I'm pretty sure I really hurt my dad, like really bad, and I don't know how to fix it. I keep trying my best, and it's never right. Story 12. My wife broke her arm a week ago. She already struggles with patience and blowing up at me. Because her arm is broken, she needs help with things. No problem, but I won't tolerate being talked down to. She's been having meltdowns over small things, like me not braiding her super long hair the way she wants. She needed help getting a ring off her finger. I wasn't doing it the way she wanted, and she kept saying it was obvious how to do it. I tried her way and it hurt her finger. She asked for a piece of ice, which I got her, and then she complained that she also needed a napkin, saying she was going to get covered in water. I told her I could get her a napkin, but she needed to speak to me nicely if she wanted help. She doubled down on it being obvious, so I asked, "If it's so obvious, then what are you saying about me? Are you calling me dumb?" She stormed off. Later in the day, she needed help removing what she thought was a stain from a shirt she wanted to wear. I tried to wash it in the sink, but I got more water on it than she wanted and didn't remove the stain. It wasn't a stain. She flipped out, saying I ruined her Christmas outfit. I told her we could dry it quickly, in maybe 10 minutes, and we didn't need to leave for 3 hours. She calmed down a bit, but since the mark was still there, she insisted we bleach it. She needed help opening the bleach. Instead of asking me, she grabbed the bottle and shook it in my face, saying, "Well," I said, "what do you need?" And she replied, again, that it was so obvious. I told her, yes, it is obvious, but she can ask me nicely. She flipped out and said not to ever help her with anything again if I was such a bad person. I told her not to make a big deal out of it, but she doubled down and got ready all by herself. I told her it's not my fault she's hurt and I have no problem helping her, but she needs to ask nicely. And if I'm not doing something her way, that's okay. Later, when we got home from Christmas with her dad, she couldn't find the ring she had taken off, her $20,000 engagement ring. She started freaking out, assuming someone had stolen it. We were staying at her mom's, and it had been in a bag in the bathroom that she had asked her mom to move to our bedroom. Her brother, mom, and some family from her stepdad's side were having Christmas there. Her brother overheard and said, "Why are you accusing us? We didn't go through your stuff." Then he asked out loud if anyone had stolen her ring. Of course, it turned up 5 seconds later under the bag, but everyone immediately left because it was so awkward. Rough Christmas. Story 13. My father walked in, blanked me, announced his engagement to a woman I had never met, and left within 15 minutes to spend Christmas with her family instead of ours. I live in the South and had traveled north to see the family. At least, it was nice to see my grandparents. Story 14. My spouse ruined Christmas. They didn't wrap a single present for me. They bought and gave me my gifts at random, a PlayStation controller because my old one finally broke, and a new video game because they wanted to play it as soon as possible. I got them a very expensive gift, so not too many gifts numerically, but some important ones. I also got something that was on sale, so I bought one for myself too and wrapped it myself from Santa. I'm not materialistic. I'm grateful for what I have, but Christmas is a huge trigger for me. I've communicated clearly to my spouse that even just having some empty boxes to unwrap means the world to me. I reminded them that they could have wrapped the box my controller came in several times. It's just the consideration and effort to wrap boxes that I'm asking for. There were no stockings hung up this year, and the only gift I had wrapped myself. I even left wrapping paper, scissors, tape, labels, and a Sharpie out, hoping it would spark a second of consideration. I'm just disappointed. Our marriage has been on the rocks for over a year because they don't consider me. They're self-centered, inconsiderate, and take me for granted. I'm tired of begging to be considered. Story 15. I told my girlfriend I felt neglected and unwanted. She argued about how I was feeling and put me down. I was sick in bed all day and had originally planned to go to her apartment for their Christmas party. I told her I was going to stay home because I was sick, and I also told her I felt uncomfortable going because of how she feels about me enjoying her roommate's company more than hers. Not how I feel, how she feels. She ended up breaking up with me, so now I'm sick and newly single on Christmas. Story 16. My mom, screaming at everyone, including the kids, and my elderly grandmother who just came out of the hospital this morning, that she doesn't want to be a full-time carer for my grandmother. No one asked her to. For the past few years, she's been asking Grandma for her inheritance early so she could buy a house. Grandma always said no. Mom moved in with Grandma a month ago and now wants her to move out so Mom can live there rent-free. Where Grandma is supposed to go is beyond me. Mom has refused to participate in plans for a care home, likely because it would involve selling the house to pay for it. Story 17. My partner of 17 years bailed on a long-planned Christmas potluck with my family. I have a small family, and my sister and her young children drove 5 hours to see us. My partner and I didn't exchange gifts. There wasn't a single thing under the tree, and all I asked was for a short but meaningful dinner with my family for the holidays. He watched me get dressed up, load the car with all the food I'd been cooking for 2 days, and then told me he didn't feel like going. I showed up by myself, sat next to his empty spot at the table, and fielded questions all night about where he was. Meanwhile, he was playing Call of Duty. This is after he hadn't contributed a single cent of effort toward Christmas at home. I did the tree, decorations, groceries, meals, and gifts for our families. His one task was to put up a simple string of lights outside that never happened. I went to bed hurt and feeling like an idiot for ever thinking he cared about me. Story 18. Christmas was actually going pretty well, but after dinner, my mother started screaming bloody murder from the living room. Then I heard her yell, "Why is Bin Laden in my frigging nativity scene?" She has a nativity scene with a bunch of willow tree figurines. The three wise men all had white robes and those style of hats, turbans. Somebody had dressed up one of the wise men with an action figure's camo jacket and taped a cutout of Bin Laden's face onto the figure's head. She is not one to swear, especially on Christmas, but she was furious. She demanded to know who did it, and of course, nobody confessed. She started accusing people and really went after some relatives she didn't like. This quickly sparked arguments about old grudges, and things got pretty heated. It was me, by the way. I did it. Story 19. My brother, the malignant narcissist. He didn't even bother to respond when my 8-year-old son said, "Merry Christmas, Uncle Mike," before walking out of the house, and he took the keycard for the hospital parking lot. So I'd have to pay when bringing my dad to visit my mom for Christmas after nearly losing her last week due to unresolved issues with her aorta. He's 56 and still lives at home, in a house he claims is his and that he's put $200,000 into. Well, Michael, the law begs to differ. The house needs to be in your name to be yours. And on behalf of my sweet, innocent 8-year-old, screw you, a-hole. Story 20. My partner ruined my Christmas day. He was supposed to be working at a ski rental shop, so I decided to take our almost 3-year-old son to the mountain that afternoon when he got off work. Taking my child skiing for the first time has been a dream of mine, pretty much my whole life, even before I had children. It turned out he didn't have to work, so he rushed me to get ready in the morning to go to the mountain, even though it was very cold, and I had no intention of getting there early. I knew we wouldn't spend much time actually skiing. It was more about taking pictures and enjoying the memories. He nagged the whole time we were there about petty little things. Then he wanted to ditch both me and my son to go snowboarding by himself. My son was heartbroken and started sobbing when he left. I called him back, and he did, but by then the mood was pretty much ruined. I was upset with him and even apologized for being upset, and now he's giving me the cold shoulder for the rest of Christmas Day. Story 21. My frigging mother-in-law. She ruined Christmas Eve. For as long as my husband and I have been married, we've always split Christmas Eve, his side, then my side. Apparently, mother-in-law made her own plans in her head, and when my husband didn't acquiesce, she flipped out, screamed, and cussed him out about spending time with my family. Know what happens then? My husband is miserable, and no matter how supportive I try to be, all the anger and frustration he's been holding in comes out, and it lands entirely on me. He's been unpleasant toward me for days because of it. Wakes up grumpy, attitude in tow, grumbling about the house and whatever else. Now they want to come over to speak to relatives overseas, so we all have to act like nothing happened. She comes over, acts like nothing happened, and her storm trickles down to me through my husband, drenching me and my life. No apology, no accountability, just me dealing with it, while she gets to act like a petulant child and repeatedly pull this same shit. I spim so frigging angry. Story 22. My wife ruined Christmas by immediately telling me how disappointed she was in the gifts I got her, or maybe I ruined it by buying her shitty presents, depending on your point of view. Update: to answer some questions, we've been married for 25 years. Most of the gifts were from her Christmas list, but she was unhappy. I didn't also buy anything off list. I can be creative. Once I got her favorite artist, Dar Williams, to call her for her birthday. For her 50th, I surprised her with a convertible VW Beetle. A few years ago, I flew her friends out to stay with us for Christmas. I've done thoughtful surprises before. I just wasn't feeling creative this year. Story 23. The kids came bounding into the bedroom at 5 a.m. Two of my girlfriends. They were ages 8 to 12 and full of excitement. My girlfriend freaked out, screaming at all of them, crushing Christmas, and forcing them to sit in their rooms for another hour. In that moment, I was done. I fully realized it was my last Christmas with her. I got up and tended to all the kids. She joined us half an hour later, tossing the presents around and generally being a monster. That was 19 years ago. I left a few months later. Never regretted it. Since then, I've enjoyed Christmas each year with my kids. Story 24. My 2-year-old. When I got him up this morning, he kept saying, "A mess, a mess." I thought he meant his toy tractor, which had something stuck to the wheels. While cleaning it, I couldn't figure out what it was, and then I checked his room. He had thrown up everywhere: his bed, blankets, pillows, playmat, rocking chair, everything. I woke up my husband, and we started cleaning. Partway through, it got to me, and I started throwing up too. I'm 3 months pregnant and can't handle stuff like that. My husband had to finish cleaning alone, shampooing the chair and mattress. Not exactly how we imagined starting Christmas. Story 25. My spouse ruined Christmas by looking at dating sites on their PC in the dining room, in full view of anyone who might walk by. My 10-year-old saw it, came to me, and asked me to tell them to leave immediately, because this only happens when I'm not around. They decided to deny and deflect, refusing to respect the simple boundary of, "Could you not do anything like that where the kids can see?" Story 26. My husband made me go on an 8-day trip to see his awful racist family. When he planned the trip by himself with his dad, I told him I didn't want to go and that next time he should plan with me, not for 8 days. He gave me the silent treatment and said I had to support him. I got us marriage counseling, but didn't bring this up too much, just mentioned that we'd need a rental car and that I'd need a hotel break in between. During the trip, I heard the N-word, learned there's apparently secret pervy behavior from his dad that had been hidden from me, and got blamed for wanting to go to a museum. Our flight itinerary was an Expedia printout sent through snail mail months ago. When the flight changed, it was somehow our fault. His dad even told his mom. I told him 5 times when the flight was, and he still missed it. I've been here a day and I'm already over it. I want a divorce. Good thing I spent $900 on a marriage counselor instead of a divorce lawyer. So, I sipping gonna say my husband. Story 27. My brother-in-law's girlfriend's daughter, we have a tradition of staying up until 1 a.m. to open presents, and usually everyone, including the kids, is fine. However, there was a storm last night on Christmas Eve. This girl is 6, almost 7. She spent the evening running rampant around the house, throwing herself on the floor and screaming while playing, not crying yet. During dinner, she refused to sit and eat, instead elbowing and touching everyone. No, she does not have any mental disabilities. Everyone else was just eating, not bothered yet. At 11 p.m., thunder and lightning started. She immediately began screeching like a dying dog. Fine, we understand kids normally don't like lightning and thunder. At 12 midnight, the power went out. Cue a blood-curdling scream from the child. Our eardrums were bleeding. The power came back on. At 12:30 a.m., her mom's phone ran out of battery, so she couldn't watch her favorite show. More kicking and crying followed, only stopping with a pastry. At 1 a.m., getting ready to open presents, the power went out again. Screaming and crying ensued. We tried to get her to hold a flashlight and open presents, but she threw a fit. At 2 a.m., more screaming and crying because she didn't want to go home, but she was also tired. Finally, she left, or so we thought. She came back this morning. At lunch, she was touching everyone again and elbowing her way onto people's seats while everyone was eating, yelling to make herself heard. She ran zoomies through the whole room and house. She came to my husband's and my room, stood in the doorway, and stared at us for a solid 5 minutes. Yes, we closed the door. Yes, we could feel her staring at us through it. When we opened the door to use the bathroom, she was still there staring. What the hell? More zoomies and high-pitched screaming followed. Whether she was having fun or being murdered, I don't know anymore. The last straw for my poor parents-in-law came when we were getting ready to trim the grass and clean up our home in another city. The kid threw another screaming fit, yelling that she didn't want to go, wanted to play with my husband's ball, a fragile Christmas gift I got him, and wanted to go anywhere but the other house. Our ears were bleeding. My parents-in-law declared she is no longer invited and that we all need hearing aids now. Story 28. My husband ruined Christmas for me. He's always been the king of tone-deaf gifts. One year he got me speakers, but he hates the music I like, so I couldn't really use them. This year he asked me what I wanted, and I asked for a new upright freezer to finally replace the awful chest freezer that's nearly impossible to access. He ordered it and even sent me the confirmation email. For 2 days, I was so excited and told my friends I was getting a gift I truly wanted. I even bought groceries for him because he hadn't cashed his paycheck yet, and after he spent about $650 on the gift, I felt it was only fair. A few days later, he got upset because I put a pint of ice cream. He had encouraged me to buy it in the freezer he uses mostly. He picked a time when I was trying to rest before work. Since the gripe was petty, I dismissed it, and after my nap, I moved the ice cream. I thought that would be it, but apparently, because I didn't immediately jump to fix his wrong, he canceled my one gift. I was hurt and disappointed. Even though he made me cry, I guess no one will care. Did I mention I took him on a trip, covered all expenses, bought him presents, and made him dinner? What did he get me? Ice cube molds. Yet another massively tone-deaf gift. He's been so mean to me lately. Story 29. My cousin spent Christmas Eve and Christmas Day telling my wife she was fat and needed to lose weight, giving unsolicited advice on how to do it. Told my brother-in-law he was going to die of a heart attack if he kept eating the way he does, even though he eats quite healthy, and his dad died of a massive heart attack last year. I stayed up until midnight on Christmas Eve prepping homemade pecan rolls, and he complained that the sugar and fat would kill us all. I woke up at 5 a.m. to bake them, spent hours cooking, only for him to take the largest roll and hand out the rest to the family, giving my wife and me the smallest ones on purpose. The icing on the cake, I had to sleep on a half-deflated air mattress shoved in the living room because he took my old bedroom at my parents' house, insisting there was no other place he could sleep. Story 30. My mom called me last week to ask if I was coming to Christmas lunch. I asked who would be there, and she listed a few close family members, saying it would just be us. I said okay. 45 minutes after I arrived, her boyfriend showed up. I can't stand being around him. She moved in with him less than 6 months after my dad died, and she shows him more affection than she did to my dad in the last 3 years of his life. The cherry on top, I can't drive due to a medical condition, so I was stuck there for another 4 hours pretending to enjoy myself, because apparently I'm the one who would ruin Christmas for not moving on from my dad's death at light speed like the rest of the family. I'm not going to Christmas next year if she's still with him. It's not just that he was there, but that she lied and didn't tell me he would be. If she'd said up front that he was invited, I would have politely declined and arranged a different time to catch up with just her and the family after Christmas. She seems to have this superiority complex, like I don't need to or deserve to know her plans, only what she wants to share. I tried talking to her once about how uncomfortable I was with him and how fast she seemed to have moved on from my dad. She absolutely lost it, yelling at me for not wanting her to be happy and accusing me of thinking she doesn't deserve to be happy and enjoy the rest of her life. At that point, I figured it wasn't worth bringing up again just to start another fight. For what it's worth, I do want her to be happy. If she's dating him, fine. But I don't want to be around him. I'm glad she's happy, but it's hard for me when I see her snuggling some other man on the sofa, knowing she barely treated my dad kindly, let alone showing him the kind of physical affection she gives her new fling. Story 31. My 80-year-old uncle ruined Christmas Eve with the family. We had to cancel. He got lost while hunting, though not terribly far from the road. He heard my brother-in-law and my grandfather searching for him, but, embarrassed, decided to wait until sunrise to come out, thinking everyone had gone home after hours of searching. My 80-year-old grandfather, the uncle's brother, had open-heart surgery this year and is going through radiation for cancer. He couldn't sleep all night, worried his brother had died in the woods. The stress on him and other older family members was so severe that we had to cancel. Edit. I appreciate the input and concern. Unfortunately, he is very prideful and I'm not close to him, so there's little chance we could convince him to get evaluated for dementia. I'll still be talking to some family to see if it's possible. Merry Christmas, everyone. Hope you all had a good year. Story 32. When I was 5, my dad offed himself on Christmas Eve night. I woke up, saw presents under the tree, and went to wake him, and he didn't wake up. My parents were divorced, and it was his weekend, so it was just the two of us. Many hours went by before my mom and the police showed up. That was over 30 years ago, and I remember everything about that day. I'd say he's ruined every Christmas ever since. Story 33. My grandparents told everyone that each year they get one person something really nice, and that this year it was finally my turn. They gave me the really nice big green egg and patio desk I had been saving for. But after acting generous in front of everyone and once everyone else had left, they told me it was actually a loan and that I would need to pay them to keep it. I told them to F off. Story 34. Not my Christmas ruined, but my friends. Her parents left home to stay in Florida and were supposed to come back for Thanksgiving. They didn't. They were also supposed to return yesterday, Christmas Eve, to spend time with their kids. They didn't. They left her, 17, her sister, an adult but legally blind, and her grandmother who literally just had a stroke and is in the hospital alone. There's no financial support. The only person bringing in money is her. She couldn't even celebrate Christmas with her family, just her sister. For the past few nights, my family has invited her to dinner to help out. I feel so bad for her. No teenage girl should have to go through such stressful events without parental support during Christmas. Story 35. I ruined Christmas. I went to my partner's Christmas gathering for the first time. I'm an immigrant with a very different cultural background, but everyone was friendly and welcoming. They suggested playing bingo, no money involved, so I thought, sure. Then the family matriarch wanted in and insisted on 50 cents a card. Okay, fine. I didn't want to play for money, but it felt too awkward to say no. I did okay at first, started with $10, down to about $5 before the final card. Then they decided to do a full blackout game at $2 a card. I tried to be polite and only play one card, but the patriarch told me to do two. I did. I was one spot from winning when he picked up my card and cleared my markers. Awkward as hell. Then they called my last spot and I won the whole prize, about $60. Everyone clearly became sore losers, and it made the rest of Christmas super awkward. Story 36. My mom told everyone that there aren't going to be any more babies in the family anyway, so my sister can throw away my son's crib. I am actively trying to get pregnant and have been taking steps and working on my health to make it happen, as I had cervical cancer last year along with a few other uterine issues. And for those wondering, yes, she and everyone else in the room are aware of all of this. Story 37. My dad just ruined Christmas dinner for me. I was switching two chairs at the table. One with arms was too tight and almost impossible to get into. He literally hollered at me for moving it. Apparently, he had measured and was getting extra chairs that he thought would only fit a certain way, and he was already mad that no one had added the table leaves. I knew nothing about this. I was just trying to sit next to my kid. It was humiliating. I know I shouldn't have felt embarrassed, and I tried to shake it off, but my eyes welled up anyway. I'm going through a divorce from my emotionally abusive husband of 20 years. He's being awful about our 12-year-old, and I'm more emotionally fragile than I realized. Story 38. Apparently, having a severe migraine and not wanting to eat terrible food at Golden Corral means I ruined Christmas. My family is also returning my gifts because I didn't just man up and deal with the pain. Update. After they ate, my parents, grandparents, and sister showed up at my house uninvited to guilt-trip me for not coming. My mom barely spoke to me, except to say I should have just dealt with the pain before getting in the car. Meanwhile, my sister was trying to pressure me into hugging the same mom who told me to man up, the same mom I've seen get completely sidelined by migraines dozens of times throughout my life. Story 39. My dad is dying of cancer, and this is one of the last Christmases we have with him. We love watching Star Trek together, and he also loves Earl Grey tea, so I got him a mug that says tea, Earl Grey, hot, from Etsy. He really loved it. My dad, exhausted from chemo, went to take a nap. Then my brother, messing around with my 5-year-old nephew, knocked the mug over and broke it. I broke down crying, but my brother immediately found the same mug on Etsy and ordered a new one. He felt awful. Overall, no harm done, but thinking about it still makes me want to cry. Story 40. My 8-year-old daughter gave me a little book with fill-in-the-blank prompts about how much she loves her dad and all the things I mean to her. She'd been saying all week she got me a present that was going to make me cry, and it did. 2 minutes after going through it and setting it on the couch, our cat threw up a lot all over the book. He managed to hit the couch cushion, a new blanket, my wife's phone, and this wonderful gift from my daughter all in one go. Luckily, the book was salvaged, but Christmas definitely went on pause. My daughter was crying hard, but I taught her that sometimes things are so absurd you just have to laugh. Story 41. My husband, from whom I've been separated for 6 months, begged and cried to come over on Christmas Eve so he could see the kids open presents in the morning. I said yes, with the understanding that we would not fight or be alone in the same room to avoid ruining the kids' Christmas. Of course, he proceeded to pick fights with me and told the kids that I was keeping the family part to myself. In conclusion, I ruined Christmas by allowing this, and I have never been so disappointed in my own judgment. Story 42. My grandmother has always given me grief about my weight. Subtle comments here and there that I've tried to take in stride. For context, I know I'm not in perfect shape. I'm about 50 pounds overweight. But I'm active, I run 5Ks, and actively working on losing the weight. Every year, she bakes cookies for everyone's gift bags. We open gifts one by one, and when it got to me, she said, "Something different this year for you." I pulled out pajamas, no cookies in sight for me, even though everyone else got them. Later, when I realized what she did, she acted confused about why I was upset. Story 43. Dad failed to mention that he was having sudden health issues, thinking it would go away on its own, or that he could wait until after Christmas to see a doctor. We ended up spending the 2 days before Christmas in the ER and admitted him to the hospital on the 24th in the middle of the night when ER treatment didn't show signs of improvement. I've been carrying the mental load of all Christmas chores and now monitoring my dad's sickness on top of that, worrying every night. I haven't properly slept in a week. I love my dad to bits and don't care that Christmas was ruined as long as he recovers. But goddamn, why do old men always make things so complicated about their health? I could have worried a lot less if he had said something on time. He could have gotten treatment on a regular day when there are still doctors around and wouldn't have risked his life by letting the issue escalate. Edit. Treatment is finally working, and he's looking a lot better. They'll do a thorough checkup tomorrow when the doctor shortage is over. Dad has been happy with visits and even cried a little when sharing stories about happy days. He says he's glad he's in the hospital now, with peace of mind knowing he can leave his health to people who know what they're doing. He realizes he needs to start accepting that he's not young enough to put off going to the doctor. I hope he remembers that next time. Story 44. My brother, who has been in prison since 2012 and does not have custody of his kids, decided to message our mom with lies about me and threatened to post those lies on my Facebook page. His son, my 15-year-old nephew, still doesn't fully understand that his dad is a toxic person who is heavily influenced by drugs. I ended up having a long conversation with my nephew about how he can love his dad while not approving of his actions, and that ultimately his Nana, my mom, is his sole provider. It's her house and her rules. My brother has threatened to bash my mom's skull in, and I'm deeply worried about her safety when he gets out of prison in 2026. Story 45. The adults in my family do a $40 gift swap on Christmas Eve instead of buying individually. I usually bake treats as a small extra gift, but this year I decided to make vanilla extract from scratch for everyone. I started in May, agitating the bottles once a week for half a year. I made 8-ounce bottles, designed labels for a fake company made from scratch bakery, featuring my 2 cats and a recipe that uses vanilla, and even added shrink wrap to the caps for authenticity. My mom loves to bake. It's a big part of her personality. But when I gave her bottle, she opened it and said, hello, I can't fly with this," without thanking me. She looked at the recipe and asked, "Are you sure this one is actually good?" I hadn't realized she wouldn't be checking a bag on her flight home, where she'd be receiving gifts from 10+ people. Later that evening, I made a sarcastic joke about her comment. Everyone laughed, and she snapped back, "You Sepp are such a smartass." This morning, we celebrated with another side of the family she likes to impress. They gifted her several bottles of wine and she thanked them without saying anything else. I guess her rudeness is reserved for her only child. Story 46. Not ruined, but came very close. Someone in my household insists on unplugging the toaster oven after each use because they're afraid it might start a fire. Of course, that led to the power cable wearing out and eventually giving out. You had to move the cable a bit to get it to work. Me, knowing more than nothing about electricity, knew it was a fire hazard waiting to happen. But nope, said person just kept using it. I was making breakfast today and needed to toast some English muffins. Got it turned on and stayed nearby in case it went haywire. I'm frying some eggs when suddenly I hear a loud buzzing, not from the toaster but from the cable. Oh, not good. I'm about to make a dash for the circuit breaker in the kitchen when the whole outlet end of the cable burst into flames. I literally shouted, "Oh man, here we go." Fortunately, the flame melted the plug and broke the connection before I reached the breaker, and the crisis was averted. The toaster oven now has its power cable removed and is ready for the trash. One close call is one too many. Story 47. My daughter got in a car wreck on the way to my house to open gifts. She broke her back, and the car is totaled. I spent the day holding her hand in a trauma room at the hospital. She's now at home, being cared for by roommates I wouldn't trust with a houseplant. I've got to stay up and text her whenever it's safe for another pain medication. I'll start dealing with the car and insurance mess tomorrow, if she even has coverage. But here's the kicker. This is by far not my worst Christmas. I dislike the holiday for a reason. I'm just glad it's over. My girl is going to be fine. Story 48. My cousin's wife's cousins, basically my cousin's wife's cousins, invited themselves to our Christmas party. And when I say invited themselves, I mean they literally knocked on the door and said, "Merry Christmas." They brought no food but had no problem voicing their disgust for what we cooked. Then they got offended that we were opening presents because they're Jehovah's Witnesses and don't celebrate Christmas. Story 49. My narcissistic brother called on Christmas Day and blamed me for ruining his holiday because this year I only sent a gift to his daughter, my goddaughter, and not all three of his kids. Every year prior, I had sent gifts to all three. The previous year, when I asked if they received the gifts because I hadn't heard from them, he hadn't sent anything to me. He said I shouldn't expect a thank you. He also failed to acknowledge the $300 holiday food box I sent, something I'd sent every year. When I asked if he got it, he bluntly replied, "Yeah, I had to give the chocolates to kid number 2 and the pistachios to kid number 3 because you didn't send them a gift." Edit. Adding context from an earlier Christmas, 6 years ago. 1 week before Christmas, my mom collapsed. I always spent Christmas with her, so I already had plane tickets to fly to her city. I spent the next 6 days with her in the hospital. On Christmas Eve, she was thrilled because the nurses said all her tests were done and she could go home on Christmas Day. A miracle. Christmas morning, I was sitting in her hospital room when a doctor we had never seen walked in and bluntly said the test results showed she had stage 4 lung cancer, with 3 to 6 months left to live. He emphasized it was Christmas Day, handed me a prescription, and left. So yeah, screw that doctor. He really ruined Christmas. Story 50. It was me, today. For years I've been telling my mother, don't get me any gifts. Yet every year she insists on presenting me with useless tchotchkes and clothes that are completely not my style, which go straight to Goodwill. This year was the same. This time, I finally had enough. After dinner, I told her, "Thank you for the gifts and your intentions, but please listen to me when I say don't get me anything. Spending time here, cooking dinner with you, and the love you show me means more than anything you could ever buy me." She started crying, and my brother asked me to leave. I ruined Christmas. Story 51. Mom broke the news to me on Christmas morning that my grandpa, Pawpaw, had passed away. I spent the morning crying and am now anxiously waiting for the date of the funeral to see him one last time. I remember telling my mom before I moved across the country from the deep south to the northeast that I wanted to talk to him and see him before I left, knowing it would be a while before I saw him again. I had a feeling he only had a few months to live. I miss you, Pawpaw. Thank you for the good memories and for helping me with my physics homework. Story 52. My ex-wife has mental health issues. She lost a custody case, so our son was no longer required to see her at all. Our daughter, younger than her brother, still wanted to see her mom, so she had visitation every other weekend and every other holiday. On Christmas Eve, our daughter was at her mom's and was supposed to be dropped off at my place at 10 a.m. on Christmas morning. My ex refused to give her back. Instead, she held our daughter hostage until our son came over to get his present from her. This holdout went on for 2 hours. With my daughter too terrified to leave, I refused to appease her coercion. Our son had already been through a lot because of her. Unfortunately, the police refused to intervene, even though I had proof that visitation had ended, and she had no rights regarding our son. For his sister, our son went to see his mother. He walked in the door and said, "Let's get this over with." He received his present, grabbed his sister, and left. The present, an electronic Rubik's Cube, he immediately gave to his stepsister when he got home. That was 3 years ago. We are still awaiting a verdict, but our daughter, like her brother before her, realized that their mother won't get better and will continue refusing help. As a result, our daughter no longer wants to see her mother, so we went back to court. It's sad that my ex has decided to waste her relationships with her children because she refuses to get help. Be careful out there, people. Story 53. My grandmother thought slapping me in the face and hitting my shoulder with her spiky nails after I yelped from getting burned was a good idea. Maybe it was really me who ruined Christmas because I cried afterward. My mom later told me that I had no business crying and that my reaction was unnecessary. For context, I'm in my early 30s. My cousin wouldn't stop talking about how many subscribers she has on YouTube. If I have to hear about how she's an influencer one more time, I'm going to throw up. And this might sound selfish, but I wanted 2 things for Christmas and got neither. I usually don't get much, so it's not a huge deal. I did get a frying pan from my mom. That was basically it. Oh, and my aunt tried to gaslight me because I don't have or want kids. Apparently, Christmas is only worth celebrating if you have children. Story 54. The usual antics of my mother trying to play the victim, complaining about wanting to go home before the guests arrive, my siblings and their children, refusing to take pictures with the family, saying she has enough memories, not wanting to eat with everyone, retelling stories that either didn't happen or denying things that did. I get so anxious about the holidays that I end up doubling my anxiety medication. Please pray for me. The week has just started. Story 55. I got my feelings hurt when my sibling didn't mention until today that they were going to visit family I've wanted to see for a long time. It's usually only possible during the holidays, even though they live just a 2 to 3 hour drive away. They claimed they only made plans 3 days ago when their other plans fell through. Sure, I can visit alone, and I will, but it's nice when everyone is together. This was the 5th time or so in the past 2 months that my sibling failed to include me, even though we've been talking and texting regularly, and I've asked about typical recurring events. This one really stung. My feelings were hurt, so I walked away, stunned, and began collecting my things. My sibling asked me not to leave, blocked me for 20 heartfelt minutes from leaving, and guilted me by calling in her kids to beg me to stay, but I was just too sad and hurt to be around them. Story 56. Here in Brazil, we celebrate Christmas on Christmas Eve. We usually spend the whole day cooking to eat like the world is ending at night. I live with my grandparents now, and my grandma isn't cooking anymore, so I went into the kitchen, which is fine. I like cooking, and alone is fine too. She spent the entire afternoon yelling at me about how wrong I was doing everything. By the time dinner was served, I ate and went to my room to sleep because I didn't have the energy to deal with it without getting aggressive. During dinner, everything I said was considered wrong or a lie. For some reason, I have been branded an arrogant liar by my family over the past few years, and I have no idea why. On Christmas Day, we usually have leftovers and some fresh dishes for lunch with more family. I got up, had breakfast, and stayed in my room until my aunt arrived. While she was here, I stayed in the living room browsing social media, and as soon as she left, I went back to my room. It feels like a teenager's Christmas, but I'm a grown adult, almost 40. I got back to my family's house to study. Hopefully, in 3 years, I'll be out of here again and never coming back. Story 57. We got home from family Christmas Eve around 11 p.m., about 4 hours later than I wanted. My son was wound up and excited, so he didn't get to sleep until midnight. Once he did, we had to put together his new desk and gaming chair and wrap a few presents. We finally got to bed around 2 a.m. I fell asleep at 2:30, my wife at 3, since she couldn't fall asleep. We had hoped our son would sleep in, given that he went to bed 3 hours later than usual. But nope, he climbed into our bed at 5:30 a.m. to wake us up for presents. We all tried to go back to sleep, but it didn't happen. So we did Christmas on too little sleep, and the day has mostly been ruined for my wife and me. It's our favorite holiday because we usually just lay around, cuddle, and watch movies while our son plays with his new toys. Not this year. We're all cranky and avoiding each other. We try to nap, but something happens, or someone stops by to wake us up, and the crankiness resumes. Story 58. I made a joke about how my mom is obsessed with the kids needing to turn off their toys to conserve battery power when they should just be carefree because they're children. She got so mad that she was still being cold to me 8 hours later at dinner. She said I am ungrateful for all the things she does for me, but I stopped her and said she needed to stick to the argument at hand, which was about the batteries. She then said she was going to take one giant step back and see how I liked not having all her help. I said, "You want to see what a giant step back is like," and told the kids we were leaving her house. We got in the car and left. Story 59. Not morning, but I was scheduled to work on Christmas and nearly every day this week. I work as a waiter in a retirement home, and my shift fell right in the middle of my family's Christmas party. Everyone working that day was irritable, and I was in a grumpy mood too, but I tried to push it aside so I wouldn't ruin Christmas. My dad picked me up from work and took me home so I could change. I also tidied my room and bathroom before we left. When I got back in the car, he was already furious. He asked why I took so long, and I said I was cleaning my room. I could feel his temper rising, so I calmly said, "Please, I don't want to fight. I can't handle it right now." He took his hand off the steering wheel, grabbed my shoulder, twisted it aggressively, and shouted at me. He said I was ungrateful and that basically everyone in the family hates me. I was stunned. I leaned back in my seat and couldn't stop crying. I ended up leaving the family Christmas after 15 minutes with my sister because I couldn't pull myself together. I might have felt differently if he had been the one working all day, but he had already been at the Christmas party the entire time. Story 60. My brother. He canceled Christmas for my nieces, 7 and 8, and my nephew, 12, because he got mad at them 2 months ago for sneaking on our mom's phone to talk to their mom while he was mad at her. No one knew about this until Christmas morning when we asked if he was ready with his presents, and he told us he hadn't gotten them anything. He also held up gift giving for an hour, making my nephew, who isn't his biological son, clean their room. The kids still got a present each from my sister, mom, and me, but they watched my other niece get lots of presents from her parents. He didn't even sit in for the gift giving, just hid away in the kids' room after making my nephew clean. Honestly, it put a huge damper on the mood for the rest of the day. Everyone felt so bad for them. Story 61. My dad, and he wasn't even in the house, divorced parents. He tried calling me early in the morning while I was busy helping my mother set up breakfast and watching my two little sisters unwrap their gifts. I didn't have my phone on me. A few hours later, once I realized, I sent him a message apologizing. I don't do callbacks and rarely initiate calls unless given permission. Especially on busy days like this, I've always been like this and everyone in my family and friend system knows it. He saw my message and left me on read. A few hours later, he was texting my mother, absolutely disgusted that he hadn't received a single text or call from any of us after he called and texted, claiming we're lazy and don't care about him. My sisters are 13 and 9. They didn't get a single text or call from him. Only I did, and I responded, but he ghosted me out of anger. He's complained about this several times, despite rarely texting or calling us unless it's a birthday, and even then, he often gets those wrong. He hasn't spoken to me since I reached out last month to tell him I passed my driving test. He hasn't spoken to my 13-year-old sister since her birthday in July, when she reached out to show him a gift she got. And he definitely hasn't spoken to my 9-year-old sister at all, except for a text confirming he got her number when we gave her a phone a year or so ago for emergencies. We're supposed to go to his on the 28th. As a group, plus my mom, we've decided to tell him to go F himself. It makes me sad that he tries to tell my baby sisters they should reach out to him. What a waste of a once good man. Story 62. This Christmas? No one. Christmas in general? My dad, when he decided to take a trip on Christmas with a friend. Many years ago, my family did Christmas dinner on Christmas Eve because my dad had to work the next day. My mom made the dinner. My brother and I set the table and my dad putzed around on AOL. He was only ever active in eating dinner, not making it. When it was time for dinner, my brother, my mom, and I were ready and waiting. We called for him multiple times. The computer was right on the other side of a wall, so he heard us, but he didn't come to dinner for about 10 minutes. We ate like normal. After clearing the table, I went into my parents' room to talk to my mom about gifts and Christmas stuff. My dad came in to tell her he was going out of town for a few days on a trip with a friend. I went to my friend's house to compare Christmas gifts, since my friend was splitting Christmas Eve at his dad's and Christmas morning at his mom's. There, my mom called to say she was kicking my dad out because his friend was another woman, and I needed to stay at my friend's for a few days. That was 20 years ago. They divorced the next year. Christmas hasn't been the same since. Not that I want to be around my dad at all. It's just an easy reminder of when things fell apart and when he made empty threats about the family starving because he wouldn't be there anymore. Story 63. My aunt brought her cat to Christmas dinner. We have dinner at our bank. They allow people to rent out the gym, which is not pet-friendly. As my cousin and I were setting up, the cat nervously ran by our feet while we were carrying heavy tables and ended up hiding in the closet under a piano. If we tried to grab him, he would swat and hiss. He was pacing, backing up against walls as if he might spray, and even jumped on the food table to steal a piece of ham. My grandma wondered why I had brought a cat. Both my aunt and I have solid black cats, and my grandma can tell the difference. I told her it was my aunt's. My aunt explained she brought him because he was whining at the door and I felt bad, and later, after he jumped on the table, claimed he's trained and has gone through therapy cat training. The cat clearly failed. There's zero proof he's trained to do anything other than use the litter box, and even that's not reliable. She tried telling the cat to get down in a baby voice, with no luck, so she had to walk over and pick him up, clearly annoyed. We had to do a quick run to the store, and she left her cat unattended with small children and very limited mobility, elderly people. The cat took every opportunity to run outside, where he could have ended up on a busy road or in a wooded area full of coyotes and foxes. My grandma came to talk to me after she left and bragged about me. She's spent a lot of time with my cats and has seen the training I do with them. Both of my cats are leash trained for inside and outside environments. They know not to go on tables or counters, though sometimes one will be rebellious and jump on a table. But she never goes after food, she just likes to spill cups. Typical cat behavior, which I'm working on. They know the word no, and it only has to be said once. They come when called even without treats, and can even sit on command from a distance. They're only 1 year old. My aunt's cat is 8. My grandma is hoping and praying she doesn't lose the ability to rent the gym. The last time someone rented it, they left it completely trashed, and the bank said no more rentals. My grandma has a good track record. She cleans everything, sanitizes, sweeps, and takes the garbage out, so they still let us use it, but we're walking on eggshells. Story 64. Eldest sister. For 4 years in a row, she spent Christmas with her husband's family, but this year she said she would spend it with her side of the family, which includes me. On Christmas morning, she last minute told me not to come for Christmas dinner until 2 p.m., so I spent the morning on my own. If she had been upfront about not wanting me there in the morning, I could have made other plans. It turned out her husband's family had asserted themselves and came in the morning anyway. I'm done with the competition. By the time you come over in the afternoon, every extended family member, friend, neighbor, and anyone else the kids don't really know has already flocked to get gifts for my 2 nieces, and it feels like, what else have you got? Christmas Eve was much better, a casual evening with people who always make time for me. Story 65. My dad. Since their divorce, my mom takes Christmas Eve, and my dad gets Christmas Day. This worked great for years, through school and into adulthood. A few years ago, my dad's mom moved back and decided she wanted to do her own celebration. On Christmas Eve, of course. At this point, I'm a grown adult, so I told her, no, I'm with my mom that day. Pick literally any other time. All I got was, oh no, it's okay, you can squeeze it in. Of course, she went ahead with it anyway and was shocked Pikachu when I didn't show up, despite me telling her I wouldn't. Cue disappointment. So this year I did Christmas Eve with my mom, like usual. On Christmas Day, I went to my dad's family Christmas. Dad asked why I didn't come to his mom's Christmas on the eve. I told him, when she implemented this years ago, I told you I would not be there. It's Mom's Day, and I need you to respect that. Cut to him being disappointed in me yet again. Backstory. I've had issues with him for a while because he's generally an asshole and doesn't respect that I'm an adult. For me, this was the straw that broke the camel sip's back. I immediately left, and he went into damage control. Instead of talking to me, he went through my sister and mom to try to invite me back, but wouldn't set to actually talk to me. My response was simple: no, F off. I sipped him done with you, and I am done with him. It's been a long time coming, but as soon as I sent that text, I felt a huge weight lift off my shoulders. My only regret is that my sister will likely take some collateral damage. Story 66. At the beginning of December, my wife decided we needed to split up. Okay, fine. We've been having issues for a long time, and it's probably for the best. Making this decision right before the holidays was a crappy move, but there are lots of reasons I'm not too upset about separating. Thing is, I asked for a little time to move out, because I've been very sick since the beginning of August. Nope. Now that she made her decision, it has to happen ASAP. I supported her through addiction, alcoholism, and a chronic illness. She kicked me out now that she had to do some supporting. Anyway, we have a daughter who is almost 11. Despite having discussed our plans for Christmas already, the poor kid had a total breakdown when it came time to head to the in-laws. It finally sank in that everything had changed. She sobbed for 20 minutes while I hugged her. My wife just made snide comments. I cried for a while after they left and took a nap out of sheer exhaustion and misery. So yeah, my soon-to-be ex ruined Christmas. Story 67. We always do Christmas brunch at our house so the grandparents can see what Santa brought the kids. My in-laws, including their almost 30-year-old daughter who lives with them, wouldn't commit to whether they were coming, so we assumed they weren't. On Christmas Eve, they said they were coming, so I pivoted my menu to accommodate 3 more adults. Mill and Sil showed up. Phil couldn't be bothered because it was sprinkling outside. They watched me finish cooking and rushing around, forgoing playing with my kids just to make this meal. I got everything set out and said it was time to eat, and Mel said, okay, well, we're going to leave. I was speechless. If I had known it was just going to be my family and my mom for breakfast, I would have made some canned rolls and played Polly Pocket with my 4-year-old. My husband and Mill ended up cussing each other out in the front yard. Story 68. My dad, as usual. Always angry, swearing under his breath, really rude and grumpy all the time. He wakes up at 6 a.m. and stomps around the house, putting dishes away and doing chores no one asked him to. He has 1,000 rules for everything. Can't use the laundry machines until a certain time of day, and so on. He's so high-strung. I can't stand being around him most days. I'm convinced he's a 70-something neurodivergent person who has gone untreated his entire life. I have to remind myself he just thinks differently. Sometimes I wonder if Christmas would be nicer once he's no longer with us. It's a terrible thing to think, but he creates a path of misery and anxiety wherever he goes. Story 69. Sister-in-law decided Christmas dinner was the perfect time to start an intervention, questioning my 2-year-old toddler's vocabulary and lisp. By the way, Christmas is also my toddler's birthday. No one else joined in, but she would not let it go. She has no kids, no experience in education or language, not even a high school diploma, but she thought it was appropriate to insult and bully my toddler at the dinner table over and over. I almost got up and left after explaining that our daughter is absolutely meeting all her language goals until my MAL made a joke about her own lisp and changed the subject. I thought we had made it through the holiday without attacks. She does this every year. Last year it was my toddler's hair, or at the time, the lack thereof. The year before it was my teenage son's refusal to eat meat. Every damn year. I told my husband I'm not attending next year if I have to be around her. I don't know what her problem with me is, but picking on my kids is not something I can tolerate without losing my temper. I have no idea why she wants to hurt me, but it's clear that's her goal. I think she wants me to get angry so she can play victim. Story 70. The kid wouldn't go to sleep on Christmas Eve without Daddy cuddling her, but Daddy was also trying to prepare all our Christmas Day food in advance. She finally fell asleep at 10 p.m., and I was able to start. Got scolded by my partner for not being social with the family, even though I had a long list of things to do in the kitchen, then gaslit with the classic "let's not fight" after I called her out. Finally finished cleaning the kitchen at 2:30 a.m. and went to sleep after 3 on the couch so I wouldn't disturb the kid. Then the kid was up at 6:30 because Santa had been. We switched beds and I got scolded again for sleeping through her reactions to Santa. Hoisted out of bed to watch her act like a brat, then had to jump on the catering train for all the meals we had planned. Collapsed into bed at 8 p.m. and didn't wake until 10 a.m. Next year, it's going to be McDonald's on pre-order from Uber Eats. Merry Christmas, everyone. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up, subscribe, and hit the bell icon so you never miss an update.